Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please click on like and subscribe. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're working on a WEN planer. It's a PL1326. We're going to be changing the blades or rotating the blades, cleaning it out, and we're also going to adjust the input and output tables. The first thing you want to do is make sure your planer is unplugged. It should have a tool with it. This will help get you the little chiclet blades off and help you rotate them. If not, it's either a T25 or T27 Torx head. First thing we gotta do is remove the cover. You should see two thumb screws up here, and loosen those up and the cover should come right off. Now once you get the cover off, you want to make sure you clean up all the wood chips. Either use a vacuum or some compressed air and blow it out. You don't want anything sitting underneath your blades or they won't set level and you'll cause damage to your wood. Take a small pick or some other small sharp object and clean out your Torx heads. These are easy to strip out. You want to make sure your Torx bit fits all the way down in there so you don't ream the tops of them out. Once you get those scraped out, just go back through it again with your vacuum and clean out all the wood chips, or again take your air compressor and just blow it all out of there so you got a nice clean surface to work with. Now depending on how good your brain is, you don't have to do this, but I always try to make a dot or a mark on my blade so I know where I started at. So that way when you're working your way around, you don't actually change them again. You'll notice on this WEN there's a little dot in the corner of it. I highlighted this one so you can see it. Basically those go to the cutting edge. So that dot can go here or it can go on the other side. Again, only two sides of this is sharpened. Don't put it around the wrong way where the other one isn't sharpened at. So once you loosen this up, you can rotate it around. If there's still dirt and debris trapped underneath of this, make sure you take it all the way off, clean out from under it. It won't set properly, and again, you will tear up your board once you put it back down. Now when you're retightening these, you want them pretty tight. You don't have to crank them super tight. You can kind of tell by how you take them off. I would just try to put them back on the same thing. I glanced through the WEN manual. I do not see any torque settings for these. So I would just say get them on there tight. Just make sure it sits flush when you do it. Just work your way across, do one row at a time and snug these up. I'll go back through and retighten them all at the end just to make sure they're all tight. And roll the blade around slowly with your fingers. Make sure you're not in line with the next chick. So you don't want to cut your finger off while you're rotating this, but it should rotate fairly easy. So to make things go a little bit quicker, loosen all the ones across a row if you want to at one time. And make sure you don't drop anything down in here, because if you dropped it down the machine, I haven't dropped one in there yet, but I'm sure it would be quite a pain to try to get it back out of there. So be real careful when you're doing that, not to drop anything down in it. Now when taking this one off and tightening it back up, it did not want to set properly. You can kind of feel when it doesn't set right. So I basically took it off, and you can see there's debris stuck up underneath of here. So make sure you clean all those off. Again, they should feel like they sit in there perfectly. Realistically, you could take every single one of these off one at a time, put them back on one at a time, depending on how dirty your machine is, or depending on if you're cutting hardwood or softwood. Softwoods like pine, things like that, are going to have sap in them. And they're going to tend to get more goo under it. I do more hardwood material than softwood, so mine's not super bad on the inside. And once it's all cleaned up, I'm just going to put it back in there. Again, making sure that your dot is going the same direction all the other ones are. In my case, it went from the bottom left corner to the bottom right corner. So now that you're back at the beginning, just go back through here again and just make sure everything's tightened. It comes with a little T-handle. Tighten it as tight as you can get it. The T-handle would probably snap before you over tighten them, but just make sure they're all tight. Now when you're replacing the cover, there's two little tabs on here. You'll see the little inserts for them. Make sure you line those up when you're putting it on. If not, it doesn't go in quite evenly. And that'll also align the chute there. Once you get it lined up properly, you shouldn't have to force anything or push anything down. It should just sit in there nice and evenly. Make sure you're pushed up against the little felt that comes out of there so you don't blow wood chips everywhere. Put your thumb screws back in and tighten it back down. And make sure you put the wrench back somewhere where you can find it if you need it again later. Again, it should snap in right there, and that way you've got it when you need it. Now to adjust these, you need something with a true straight edge. So I've got a 4-foot level here, and I've got this aluminum stock bar I use for a lot of things. I know they're both nice and straight. So what I want to do is I want to put a light underneath here, and you'll be able to see. If you can see light underneath of that, make sure you're on top of one of the ribs and not in the gap, because of course you're going to see light underneath the gap. So I'm sitting on top of a rib. But as you shine the light across, if you can see light anywhere, that means your table is not aligned properly. Now I did these settings when I first got the planer, but it's been used quite a bit. This is the first time I've changed the blades on them, and you can see how far out it is just after a few months use. So to adjust this, we want to adjust the back part of the table first, so it's level with our deck inside. Now to do this, you want to loosen this jam nut and turn this bolt down or up depending on which way it goes. Now, unlike what it looks like, this bolt actually brings the front of the table down, not the back of the table up and down. After that, we want to take and loosen up the 2 screws on the side of the unit, and that'll loosen up the table so that the whole thing floats forward. But as you can see here, by turning this nut down, it actually drops the front of the table, and it doesn't do anything for raising or lowering the back of it. So you loosen those 2 screws there, and that'll let you lift the plate up and down. As you can see, we're going to adjust the back with our straight edge and make sure it's even with our table on the inside. So our outfeed table is touching right there. And we're not going to worry about the front of the table yet. We're just making sure the back part touches, and then tighten the 2 screws on the side. That'll keep the back from dropping back down. Now once you do this, you may have to go back again and do some fine tweaking, but for the most part this will get you pretty close to where you need to be. Now before raising the front of our board, we want to go over here and make sure our other side on the back is even. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to loosen the 2 screws if you didn't loosen all 4 of them to start with, and just raise the back side up so it's touching just like you did the other side. And again, a small flashlight helps here because you can actually see light coming through. Again, just make sure you're not in one of the divots and you're up on top of the ledge, so it goes straight across. If you're in one of the grooves, of course you're going to see light going across it, so make sure you're not in a groove. Make sure your straight edge stays true across. If you have someone to help you hold it in place, hold it so it's level, because it's really easy to raise it too high, and that's going to make it off. You can also drop the rollers down on top of it. Do not crush it, just barely touch the roller so you know the straight edge stays nice and straight, and that'll help you keep it from moving also. After you get the back adjusted, double check the back on both sides, and then we're going to adjust the front part of the table now. Raising this up will raise the front of the table up, lowering it down lowers the front of the table. So we're doing the exact same thing. We're just going to raise it up until it's nice and flush all the way across. Once we get it flush, we're going to tighten this jam nut up. When you go to tighten the jam nut up, keep your straight edge on, because the jam nut can push it up even higher or drop it down a little bit. And you may have to make a couple adjustments here just to fine tune it and get it nice and level. So again, here you can see with the flashlight underneath of it, as you raise this bolt up, it closes the gap on the front. Again, make sure your straight edge is nice and straight. If someone's not holding on the other side, drop the rollers on top of it. Remember, as you're tightening this with the jam nut and the bolt above it, when you turn it, sometimes you get a little bit of a gap in there, as you can see right there. So you might have to go back and forth with the jam nut and the bolt at the same time to make sure you get a nice level table on both sides. After you get that side done, check it again, make any minor adjustments you need to like that, check your other side, and then do the input side the exact same way. Hope this helped you out. Please click on like and subscribe.